computing. And we are live. Welcome, everybody. We are here with award-winning author, for once, Edi Alvarez. But before we get to the interview with Eddie, Roe, what is going on in the world of Roe?
You know, the world of Roe is a big mess. So yesterday I decided that I would try to update my website, and I recreated an entire website, and then found out that I'm going to have to recreate it again because the way it works is I made it something about the way websites work, and it's not just you can't just say, okay, I now want this site to be this site. It doesn't work like that. So good times, but repetition is all there.
That is the best 50-something answer that I've heard in a while.
The best what?
50-something answer.
Oh yeah, I know, right? I George little buttons. I couldn't know what the hell is going on. By Jesus.
And for me, I have nothing going on. I do want to just shout out that our next guest is going to be Palmer Pickering on Tuesday at 7 p.m. Very excited for that. But more importantly, we have a man who has accolades to his title.
Yeah, how did we get Eddie here, man?
Eddie, well, he said yes before he won, so
right.
We got grandfathered in. But anyway, Eddie, welcome to the show. Our shenanigans is over for now. So tell us about your book.
So first off, hello to the audience. I'm very happy to be here. This is actually the first English interview I've done in a long while. So it's exciting for me to do one like this. I'm here to show off my baby. This is the cover to the Spanish version, but you're not missing much. It's the same cover as in English. It's just that this one has the text in Spanish, because I sold my last copy in English a few days ago. But I'm here to talk about my baby. This is my science fantasy novel. It's named Virtus Draconis Blood Prize. It's available in Amazon. And I have plans for a second edition that I'm going to possibly publish on Barnes & Noble and Kobo and all those other sites. It's going to be a second edition because it's going to include the awards that it recently won. And I want to increase the distribution. I don't want to limit myself to just Amazon.
Right.
But that's my baby right here. It won an award at the International Latino Book Awards, and I'm still stoked about it. I got the email like a week ago, and I'm still reading the draft that I got for the long list. I'm still reading it and seeing my name on it because I'm still in shock. But that's what's going on with me at the moment.
And what was this competition? No, sorry.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I'm a little in shock that, after you won that award and read that email, you didn't call up Mike right away and say, yeah, I can't be seen on your show. I've got street cred now that I can't destroy right away.
Are you kidding? We're going to do a video. It's going, Eddie, you just won a prestigious award. What are you going to do next? And he's going to go, I'm going to Bald&Balding.
It'll be a thing.
So what was this award from? What is the competition?
The award is from the International Latino Book Awards. They are possibly one of the largest, if not the largest, awards in literature for the Latino community. The awards were initiated by Edward James Olmos, if you believe that.
Yeah.
The awards every year, the amount of awards that they keep giving out increases. In fact, this year they saw a 40% increase in entries. So
nice.
So competition was pretty fierce. I still can't believe that I got selected to be a finalist. I still don't know the exact place I got because they're going to announce it on the lead up to the award ceremony, which is going to be in LA. Not sure if I'll make it, but something to look out for. But yeah, it's I was a finalist in the best fantasy novel in Spanish category, and I was also a finalist in best website promoting a book. And the novel also got an honorable mention in best first book in Spanish.
That's fantastic, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
You have I'm sure you've read the thing, but for anybody who doesn't know, you can just pop over to the LatinoBookAwards.org website /book-awards-2024 and winners. This is not like Spiffbo where you get a selfie stick. Winners actually get like a package worth $3,500. An article in Latino media outlets focusing on the 4 rising stars, next generation must read authors, and a check for $1,000, which is always a nice thing to have around. That's fantastic.
That's the top award for those who are selected as rising stars. For the standard award for the first, second, for gold, silver, and bronze medals is basically a medal and a certificate. But for the Rising Star Awards, only 4 are selected in, I believe, fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and I can't remember the last one. But if they are selected, they get that $3,500 package, which is, always pleasant.
Nice.
So
Oh, yeah.
we'll see what happens.
And you're still in the running for that?
Yes. Well, as far as I know, because they only select the gold medal winners, and I still don't know if I'm a gold medalist or not, because they're going to announce it on the day of the awards. But all gold medal winners on any category are basically eligible for the Rising Star Award. So I'm still in the running for that. So we'll see how it goes from here.
Nice.
And this is your first book?
Yes.
That's awesome. Man,
Well,
done.
technically not the first, because before this I was published in several anthologies in Puerto Rico. I recall my first publication was my flash fiction anthology. I didn't win that one, but I was still selected to be published. Um, I basically was selected because my 2 flash fictions were 1 sentence long, and it's always challenging to compress fiction to a single sentence, because you've got to be mindful of every single thing. You got to be mindful of the plot, the character, and all of that stuff. And it takes a special kind of awareness. And I just said, screw it, I'll just give it a shot. I wrote my 1 sentence flash fictions, and they were selected.
Nice.
Can you read it to us?
I'll do you one better. I've got one of them memorized. The other one I don't remember, but this is my favorite because it's the one I remember the most, and it goes loosely translated. It goes let me see. When the soda can was opened, the bubbles died, and that's it.
Interesting. I like it.
Yeah,
And how long did
because
it take you to put that together?
Yeah, because when you open a soda can, the bubbles basically burst and blow off. It was something silly. I just wrote to pass the time, and I decided to enter it. But it makes a certain amount of sense, because life and death and all that stuff. And it's still my favorite. Everyone always talks about that one for some reason. Not sure why.
So when you write, do you write in Spanish or English first?
My routine is usually I write in Spanish first. The reason is that Virtus Draconis is actually my graduate thesis from when I was in my MA in creative writing at the Universidad del Sagrado Corazón, which is Sacred Heart University in Santurce, Puerto Rico. It's actually my thesis project. I had to write a full-length novel or a short story collection, so I chose to write the novel, and that was my project. It was approved in 2017, actually just a month shy. Sorry, just a month after Hurricane Maria, if you believe that. That it's actually a complex story. If I had the time, I'll definitely tell it. But it was my graduate thesis project, and it sat on the back of my mind for like 6 or 7 years until recently in 2023, because I couldn't publish it because I had some real life things to take care of first,
Yeah.
like my parents' health, and I had to take care of them and all that. But I decided to publish it last year in 2023. I believe it was July when it was first published. And then a couple of months later, they told me about the Latino Awards, and they told me, you know what, you got something here. You should give it a shot. And I'm like, I'll give it a shot, but I'm pretty sure I've got nothing super noteworthy because I've been told that I'm dangerously humble. Um, so I decided I'll enter it, but I'm pretty sure I'm not gonna get anything major. Maybe an honorable mention, but surprise, surprise, I became a finalist.
Nice.
So
An awards program like that, I think even an honorable mention is worth a mention. You know, your first book right out of the gate, that's pretty awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
yeah, certainly. It's a science fantasy novel. It's actually a very different kind of book because in this book I wanted to go explore neurodiversity. Most of the characters are neurodivergent to some degree. For example, the protagonist Claude, which is the red dragon that you see here, because this is a furry novel. I'm actually kind of a closeted furry. I call myself because I'm a furry, but I don't advertise it that much until people see the book and they're like, "Oh no, you're definitely a furry," and I'm like, "Pretty sure I'm normal," and nah, you're full on furry. But it's basically a story about this autistic dragon who, at the start of the story, he embarks on this mission. But during this mission, he gets poisoned with a deadly substance that he that he is dying from. And another character comes in, and this because her life was saved by this dragon, she decides to pay a blood price to save his life in return. And so she does, and the blood price ends up altering her biology just to an extreme. She basically becomes something completely different. And from there on, the story is about this group of adventurers as they go out to stop a despot queen. And I know it sounds maybe standard or generic for fantasy fiction, for science fantasy. Sorry, but I went all in on deconstructing most of the tropes associated with fantasy characters. For example, I tried to give the princess a degree of empathy to her madness, if that makes any sense. I wanted to deconstruct what a typical evil queen is supposed to be. I mean, this character, with who is the Queen Meredith Staunton, she basically crumbles under the pressure of the expectations and demands that are placed upon her for being a queen, which is what leads to her villainy. And I have another character who is her regent, who basically serves her until she's coronated queen. At which point he decides, I can't do this anymore. I can't serve her anymore, and he decides to go on his own way. If I tell you anymore, I'm spoiling the book. But it's basically a deconstruction using the furry characters as an element. There are humans too, just to clarify, just to pacify the fans. But basically, it's a deconstruction of many fantasy tropes while at the same time exploring neurodiversity.
Interesting.
How did you go about? I mean, dragons. There are so many different types of dragons, but I think this is the first time I've ever heard the words autistic dragon put together. How did you go about writing an autistic dragon?
Well, this is actually a project, and to answer, I just saw a message in the chat. Someone was asking about the art on my walls. Basically, these are gaming posters that I've got all over my room, and some gaming memorabilia. Most of it, it's got its years, and but they've been perfectly framed. So it's definitely there's definitely a lot of gaming stuff here in my room because I'm a gamer at heart. Um, as for your question, I'm actually not sure how I came across the idea for an autistic dragon, because this actually started as an idea I had in college. Because back then we had this writing club for the English department when I was in university, and I had a concept for this novel back then, and it wasn't as furry as it is now. For lack of a better phrasing, it it was more it resembled more of a Naruto story in that the characters were basically nearly copies of Naruto and Sasuke and Sakura, for example. Um, Obviously, I wasn't writing a Naruto copy, but the reminders were there, and I was forced to abandon that idea for a long time because college life came first, and I had obligations. I had to school to attend to, and all that. I stayed on the back burner for years until I revisited it for my thesis project, and that's when I got the idea to explore neurodiversity, and that's when I decided to give every character some semblance of a mental uh, quirk for so I don't have to say illness or condition or disability. Every
Right.
character has a mental quirk of their own. For example, one character develops some pretty strong PTSD, and she develops severe anxiety and stress over the changes that have occurred to her. Then there's Claude, the main character, who is autistic, and he has to explore his autism. And part of the story is about him learning to trust others because he retreated into his shell most of the time. And part of his story is coming out of that shell. So when I came up with the idea of neurodiversity in fiction, I decided to apply it, and I decided to as an autistic man, I decided to write what I knew best, which is autism, and that's how an autistic dragon came to be.
So EL is asking, can you tell us about the furry concept? Because he's not the. I too am like kind of trying to struggle with that. What exactly is that? Can you define it?
Okay. In a nutshell, furries are fans of anthropomorphic characters. Half animal, half human
Okay.
characters. Like, for example, I can think of as an example SWAT Cats, a cartoon from the early '90s by Hanna-Barbera. Then I can think of Street Sharks, which is another cartoon with anthropomorphic characters.
Okay.
And in this story, the furries are actually called incomplete because they are neither completely human or completely animal. They're like at a 50-50 rate of man and beast. So they're basically beast men, and they're called incompletes for that reason. Um, I actually explore a little bit of why this is in the second book that I just finished, because there's a sequel that I'm writing to the book, and in that book I greatly explore on the lore and I expand on how these people came to be, how this world came to be, how how things work, because that was a weakness. I actually got a review about my first book, and one of the weaknesses I was told is that I didn't reveal much about the background, about the setting and stuff. And I decided, you know what, for the second book, I'm gonna listen to the feedback, and I'm gonna expand on the motivations, on character developments, on the lore, on the story, and that's pretty much my whole process with this.
You said earlier that people said, "Oh, you're a furry, right?" If you're writing this, so what's your? Do you have one? The costume?
A costume? No, I don't. I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
Those are a bit. There's a there's a bit of a financial roadblock to getting a costume because those are those are really expensive. And
So
I
what
have
animal are you leaning toward?
yeah, I'm a bit like a 50-50 furry. I like furries and all that, but I don't think I'm fully committed to the lifestyle. Um, because people call it a lifestyle. I just call it something nice to do and all
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
I get, right. I mean, it kind of looks, like any other costume thing that you see at Comic-Con or something. I wouldn't know where to start even asking questions if someone said furry is a lifestyle. Yeah, don't know where to go with that probably just as well. So, who is your book written for? What kind of audience?
Um, I actually went through an unusual route when deciding the audience, because most of the time people will tell you, your book is young adult, your book is this, your book is that, and I decided, no, that's not entirely accurate, because this book is actually a little bit more mature than most young adult books, but at the same time, it doesn't quite go into the full on adult territory. So I decided to settle on saying this book is for all ages 15 and up, because 15 is a reasonable age for the stuff that they see in the book, because it's very reminiscent of gaming and anime and manga. Because this book, now that I remember, I described it during my thesis defense as a love letter to the 90s. And the 90s, I mean, as in video games, cartoons, anime. So that's basically what the book is. It's a love letter to the 90s. So there's a lot of video game elements in the story. Um, it's basically a homage to video games. And that's why I say that rather than say that the book is young adult and or popular fiction or this or that, I just say all ages 15 and up. It's a lot easier that way.
Yeah, yeah, rather than pigeonholing, absolutely. Alex wants to know what your favorite video game is.
Oh, baby, that's an easy one. Um, I would. It's actually a tie right now between The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time and The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild, and by proxy, its sequel, Tears of the Kingdom. Uh, I'm. I've always had a deep admiration for the Zelda franchise. Um, I grew up with Zelda games pretty much all of my life, and they defined a great, just like Super Mario. The Legend of Zelda defined much of my life, both creatively and narratively. It's how I coped in with bullying, for example, when I was growing up. It's how I coped with the pressures and expectations of school growing up as an untreated autistic patient, because special ed back then was not very well informed when it came to autism. So I was not placed in special ed, because then I would be isolated to a single classroom and a single corner of an empty classroom. My parents didn't want that. That's why they put me with the regular students, because they knew that I could succeed and excel and thrive in a normal classroom setting. And video games helped fill the void from time to time. And that love for video games remains, and it's written all over the book. Other video game
So,
series that I love, I can think of Mass Effect, Resident Evil, Final Fantasy. I'm not that I'm a pretty easy guy to please.
when as you're writing your next book, which takes precedence, the writing or the gaming?
It's 50-50, but but for this one, I was actually older and wiser. I was more ready, so the writing definitely took more precedence. I was actually finished the book in about maybe 6 months, because I wrote the first half in about a month and a half, because I'm when I write, I'm a pantser. When I start to write, I have to be super focused and interested. I've tried to be a plotter, to plan everything ahead of time, but I find that every time I plan something, the plans never go the way that I want them to.
Right. Yeah.
Things always change, things
Yeah.
always shift in a different direction. So I decided to give up, and I just said, "Screw it! I'm a pantser. I'm a planter, actually." So
Embrace it, man. Embrace the chaos.
exactly. So I wrote the first half of the book in about month and a half. I had to take a break because I was burned out, which is kind of my fault, actually. and I was out of commission for a few months, and then just recently I finished the second half.
Nice. So
So
Ian,
go ahead, Mike.
Ian wants to know: are you more into the characters or setting, or is it world building? What is it that really gets you excited when you're writing?
Oh, definitely the characters. You can't have a world without the characters, and sadly, it's a trend in fiction lately that I see that characters are usually put on the back burner in favor of building this super cool world and these super cool characters and getting across these super powerful messages. Um, but the characters are usually the ones paying the price, and people don't really pay much attention to the characters, which is ironic because, well, characters are the ones that drive the story. So I would say that for me, I definitely enjoy creating characters. I like to be different and to break the mold because I don't. I was actually it was drilled into my head during my MA classes in creative writing that I had to avoid stereotypes and cliches. And boy, they're really picky on the program I went to for that. They were super picky about it. They said that things were commonplace and that I had to be a little bit different. So it was kind of ingrained into my head. So I like to be different and think up unusual situations or interpretations.
I think you what you said is a really good example of that is Marvel versus DC, right? Because Marvel took their time and they introduced one character per movie for half a dozen movies and then brought them together so you know who the characters are. DC throws like three or four at you in one, and you never really get a good idea of who they are or what they're doing. So, um, EL has another question because EL is a font of questions, but he has to get them all in before he gets kicked off his internet. Do you prefer a hopeful resolution or one that's more challenging?
I'm 50-50. I don't like us overly challenging endings because they just scream depressing, which is pretty much what happened to me when I was watching BoJack Horseman. At first, I was watching the show and I was like, just fine. I was like, okay, I'm liking this show. I have reservations. I have plenty of reservations, but I'm liking what I see. But that's until I got to season two and the resolution of the Charlotte storyline. The ending left me so sickened that I literally said, never again. I am never wasting another second of my life on this again. But at the same time, I don't like endings that are too hopeful because they're too sappy or maybe too cliche. So I go for with a bittersweet route. Overall, maybe hopeful because not everything that's bittersweet has to end on the more depressing on the depressing side of the story. So, but I prefer to go through the 50-50 angle. I leave a little bit of everything, a little bit of sad, a little bit of happy. And to respond to a comment I just saw, I'm not disputing that BoJack Horseman is a great show. I'm just saying it was not my cup of tea because I got to the Charlotte storyline and I was like, no, this is not for me.
Well,
Not for
then
me.
let's ask you a question of what your likes and dislikes that is very non-controversial. Star Trek or Star Wars?
Oh dear Lord. Wow.
That is the right
Until
answer.
yeah, until recently, I was a Star Wars fan, but that was until Disney started to. I'm not gonna say release bad products because I believe that the sequel trilogy has merits. For example, I like the concept of Rey as a character who carries on the Skywalker legacy. I like that, but I think that Disney has overexposed us to Star Wars a little bit too much. So rather than say that Star Wars sucks, I'm just gonna say that way too much Star Wars for me because you've got the Mandalorian, you've got the Acolyte, which by the way, no, I will not say whether it's a good thing that it was canceled or not. That's a can of worms I'm not gonna open right now. Um, you've got um, you've got the Bad Batch, I think it's called. You've got the sequel trilogy. You've got the comics. You've got the whole canon that was thrown away as the Legends canon. You've got basically a huge can of worms that nobody wants to open. So to answer your question, I'm just going to say that right now I'm a bit more partial to Star Trek, if only because they haven't flooded us with as much Star Trek.
That is a well-reasoned answer. Something we don't get a lot of on this show, oddly. So that's kind of nice.
I try.
Let's see. Peter Jackson wrote the book on respecting the material. Yeah, and then he burned that book when he did The Hobbit, but whatever. Okay. I do have one non-book related question to ask you. As a Puerto Rican, does it bother you that based on the uniform alone, Captain America isn't called Captain Puerto Rico?
Well, well, at first it did, but I decided to let it go.
That is a healthy answer.
Well, I mean, but you look at his outfit, right? He's got the stripes and the one star, and it's like, that's the Puerto Rican flag. That's not the American flag.
Yeah, it's a perfect match. Yeah. I decided to just let it go because honestly, if I started to try to figure it out, well, stuff happens.
Yeah, I need to respond to this real quick. They capped their effort with Captain Janeway. No, they jumped the shark with Captain Janeway, and that's why you haven't seen anything in so long. So, all right, enough of that.
It's interesting. I've seen a bit of Deep Space Nine, and I've seen a bit of a Captain Janeway story. I don't remember the name off of the top of my head. And out of the two, I found Deep Space Nine to be the better thought out series, but I found Janeway to be the more likable one of the two. I don't know why. I just found her to be this badass character in charge of this crew that gets lost and she has to keep it afloat. I really like that concept. But if you ask me out of the two, well, it's pretty much indisputable that Deep Space Nine is the better series. Speaking deeply technically, but here's where I differ from everyone else. I find that Deep Space Nine is a great series. It's probably the best Star Trek series made. I'm not disputing that, but I'm more of a Janeway guy. It's just how I feel. I'm just gonna leave it out there and just say Janeway is my thing, and Cisco is everyone else's thing, and that's okay.
It is. Everybody's entitled to their opinions, even when they're wrong, Eddie. That's okay.
So before we go down this rabbit hole too deeply,
no, we're done. I'm done. I'll be good.
I'm just curious. When you sell your books, do you sell more in Spanish or in English?
Well, lately, maybe it's because I live over here in the States, but I definitely sold more in English. But the Spanish one has definitely found its audience. It was sold in bookstores in Puerto Rico.
Nice.
I was able to work out a deal with the bookstores back there, and they carried my book for a time. I haven't restocked their shelves yet because, as I said, I'm planning a second edition of the book. But yeah, they've both sold about pretty equal amounts. For a first attempt at publishing a book, I would say that it sold stellar. It basically sold my expectations. I've sold more than 50 books, which seems small now, but considering the fact that I'm going places, I mean, I won this award. I can only assume that hopefully I'm gonna continue down that path. For the second book, I may go through a publisher, so there's that. So I'd say they sold pretty equally. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Was it difficult getting the book translated, or did you do it yourself?
No, I did it myself.
Right.
I've been told that. Well, I don't like to brag, but I'm actually pretty decent at English, so I decided to translate it myself. I did for a couple of reasons. One, because I have an awareness that rather than just translating the book literally, you have to think about localization. There are certain phrases and idioms from Spanish that won't translate into English. and sometimes translators in their attempt to translate a book, especially one that's a fantasy book like mine, they might not pay much attention to that and might do a literal translation. So I decided, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I'll translate my own book myself. Um, so I had to do it and pay careful attention to idioms, finding their English equivalent, um, and making sure that it's a bit more conditioned to the English market, to the American market, because that's where I live. But yeah, I translated it myself, and I had it corrected by an editor.
How long did it take you to translate it versus writing it?
About a month.
All right, it's not bad.
I know it's hard to believe to some people, but I actually translated the book very quickly. I'm a very fast typer, so typing it was just a matter of having both documents open in the same window. I had on one side English and another Spanish. And my process would be, I would scroll down to page one, for example, in English, and on the other document, I would start typing the translation. As soon as I was done, I would scroll to page two, and then page two in Spanish, and so on. And I just went back and forth, and before I knew it, I had the translation done. I actually launched the English translation of the book at the same time as the Spanish version, because that was my goal. I understand that there's an audience, and that nobody likes to wait, and I like to do things as soon as possible so that I can have time to do other stuff like play my video games. So I did everything as fast as I could without sacrificing the quality, of course, and I translated it pretty quickly, and I had it edited, and I launched the book at the same time as the Spanish version, and the rest is history.
So, are you open to hiring yourself out to do translations of English books into Spanish?
I thought about it, but the thing I have that I should point out is that first off, I'm not a professional translator, so and I'm pretty sure that my translations had flaws, which is what editors are for. So if I need an editor to check my translation for to proofread it for errors and spelling issues and such, which there were plenty when I've had it edited. Well, I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to do a very good job at translating. I say if you're not able to do a translation for yourself, well, you should leave it to a professional. My case is very particular. Uh, uh, my my case is very particular because I'm very picky about this sort of stuff. My upbringing was very complicated, and you're talking to a guy who, in English class, while everyone else was discussing the first story of a textbook, I was already halfway done through the textbook out of boredom. So my case is
That's a
very
lot of us
particular.
in English class, actually. To be fair,
Yeah.
So, would you like to pick one of your characters? And we have a thing called the Bald Dome that we're going to put your character into. So the rules are this: you pick your character, and the rules of your world hold still. I'm going to roll some dice, and I'm going to give you a setting and an adversary, and then you tell us what happens next.
yeah, how your character would react in this particular setting.
Okay. Sure.
Which character are we going to use, Eddie?
Let's see. I'm gonna use Gunter, which is the alligator regent that you see over here, and I choose
Okay.
this character because rather than the protagonist, because this character actually tested extremely well with the readers. Whenever I talk to someone that's read the book, the first thing they tell me is that they love Gunter, and everyone loves Gunter, and it's always Gunter, Gunter this, Gunter that, and because apparently I did an incredible job with him. Their words, not mine. I don't like to brag, like at all. I'm like super humble.
You said it tested well. Did you actually do like market research before you put your book out? Because that would be a
kinda,
first on this show.
I kind of did, but not that way. I didn't. I had beta readers,
Yeah.
and they told me that the character was very well written, and they liked him. And then later on, when the book was released, the character that everyone talked to me the most was Gunter, and he's the regent who serves the queen, who starts to have a change of heart over over her actions, and he actually has done remarkably well with readers. So that's another reason why I chose him. In fact, he's the protagonist of the sequel story, as a testament to that.
You know, I would like to be there at the Comic-Con you go to one day when you see Gunter walking down the aisle with somebody has that costume on.
Oh, I would
You
love that. That would make my day.
know that's going to happen, right?
Let's hope.
So the
It
bald dome, your character Gunther is swept away to let's see, number 4, an abandoned castle on a windswept cliff overlooking the sea.
Okay.
He has a fizzy potion. What's your favorite color, Eddie?
Blue.
He has a blue fizzy potion, but he does not know what it does. But I will tell you, if he drinks it or if he throws it at his adversary, it automatically 100% will work. But you don't know what it is. And actually, okay, now I know what it is. Good. Anyway, so now you get a choice. You can give Gunther a regular item, and he faces a regular animal, or you can give him a bona fide weapon, and he has to face a fantasy creature. So your choice, regular item or weapon, and then I'll determine which kind of thing you face off against.
Okay, this requires some thought. Okay.
He's already thought about it more than you have, Mike.
Oh, I'm looking at the answers. I'm praying for one over the other.
Gunter is not exactly the weapons type. He actually fights with his fists. So I would say give him the animal, because he's not exactly a weapon type of guy. He actually fights with knuckles and gloves and claws and that sort of thing.
Okay, well, had you chosen the weapon, he would have got a great sword and have to fight a minotaur. However, you went with the common item, so he got 3 tallow candles. And, and he meets up with a ferocious hippopotamus in this castle on the windswept cliff. What happens next? He can fight, he can run, whatever he would do. Just tell us, how would he handle this situation?
Well, Gunter's a bit of not exactly a pacifist, but he's very careful. So the first thing he would do is he would probably set the candles aside and light them to see if that'll calm the creature down. And he'll sit down at first. He'll sit down to meditate and to gauge the creature's intention, because he's not a fight first, ask questions later type of guy. He's actually very methodical and very calm in his approach. So he would probably sit down and basically just chill, meditate, and see what happens with the creature. And the candles, I assume, are there to calm both of them down.
How big is
And-
Gunter?
I'm sorry?
How big is Gunter?
I've actually never thought about that. That's a good question. But I would say probably, I think he would probably reach about 7 feet tall.
Okay, so he's a good sized lad. All right.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you have the potion that you can choose to use or not.
Okay. He would probably analyze the potion while he's engaging the hippopotamus. Maybe he wouldn't open it just to be safe, but he would measure it and watch it and see, okay, I got this thing. What am I supposed to do with this? I'll just set it aside and wait and see what happens.
Okay. So the hippopotamus approaches, because it's a ferocious hippopotamus, not just a hippopotamus. So what happens now? The hippopotamus is approaching. Does he run? Does he fight? Does he use the lavender scented tallow candles to calm the beast? You can take some license here.
He would probably jump backwards a little bit to retreat, still gauging the creature's intentions. He knows by now that the creature is a ferocious one, and that he would probably attack him without a second thought. He's starting to see that the candles probably aren't doing much. Serves him right, and he's he starts to think, okay, this is getting serious, so I better be careful. So he would wait until the creature makes a move before he makes a move himself.
Okay. Does he fight or does he run? He can always dive over the cliff into the ocean.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
True.
I didn't say it's good. I'm not here to help, Ro.
Nah, he wouldn't jump away to flee. Maybe, well, in hindsight, he probably should and would, but he's legitimately curious about the creature, so he decides to get ready to fight, just in case. His objective is not to kill, but to subdue. So he would probably fight it out first and hold on and subdue the creature before he ends up killing it. He leads killing as a last resort. He's not a murderer.
Okay.
Your book is different than a lot of fantasy books. Yeah.
I tried. I tried.
Everybody else's has at least one total psychopath.
Nah, I try not to use psychopaths in fiction. I mean, there is one in the sequel book, the villain, but I try not to play into the standard stereotypes. I go very different. I try to expound more on the character, their motivations, so I deconstruct everything. This is a fun exercise.
Okay, so potion, yay or nay on the potion?
Probably not, just to be safe.
Okay. Well, the potion was a potion of animal friendship.
Oh man, that would have been perfect.
So for once, yeah.
It was not worth it. It was not worth it. Trust me.
No, it's really not. If you've never seen this before, you made a good call.
Well, you have to try.
And we know all of your characters are psychos.
All right, Mike, you got anything on the goofy question list?
I do.
Yeah, Mike's got a list of oddball questions.
Number 18. Let's see. What is that? That is, we've done that. I like this one. If your main character was a new addition to the Village People, what would he dress as? We have not asked that question before.
A new addition to the Village People. Oh dear God, what have you done? What have you done to him? Okay, addition to the Village People.
Captain Puerto Rico.
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one. Well, now that he brings up that I'm Puerto Rican, I think it would be in everyone's best interest to reflect the coquille frog if he dressed like a frog. If only to reflect that I'm Puerto Rican and that one of our national animals is a tiny frog that makes the most beautiful melody. Apparently, they're causing trouble in Hawaii.
Okay. That was not an answer I was expecting.
No. Anybody that had a frog on their bingo card, you let us know because you're lying.
So
Alex asked about Naruto references.
I like to think that they're not overt references, but there are reminders. It's like if I said this was inspired by Naruto. Trust me, you'll know when you sit down to read it. But overt references, like for example, references to Naruto himself and that kind of stuff, no, that's all scrubbed out in the interest of both originality and protecting myself from copyright issues. But there are a couple of
Good call.
subtle nods to Naruto. In fact, in the second book, there's one character who is I'm gonna say he's a Chinese vampire. He's a Jiangxi, and at one point he's fighting and he runs with airplane arms. Like they do in cartoons and anime nowadays when they run like this or like this. There is that, and there are some references to hand signs, but that's pretty much it.
And no ramen noodles.
Not so far, no.
I have no idea what's going on here. I just had to look up Naruto on Wikipedia. So, yeah.
It's a decent manga. I love it. Not so sure about the sequel Boruto, but Naruto is definitely a fun and enjoyable read for me. I grew up with it, so it definitely has a special place in my heart. Which is ironic because One Piece was actually running at around the same time, and I'm actually not a fan of One Piece. I just don't like pirates in general, and One
Have
One
you
Piece was
tried the
running at
live
around the same time. I'm sorry.
Have you tried the live action version of One Piece?
Not yet. I have to sit down and watch it, but from what I've heard good things about it. I know that
It actually
I
is. It actually is pretty good.
yeah, that's what I've been told. I definitely have to sit down and watch it sometime. But
Of course, it is.
yeah, but I'm more of a Beastars type of guy, which is actually on Netflix as well. I think it's a great anime. It's a deconstruction of a high school setting of the high school setting in anime and manga. So I definitely recommend it. Let me write down the name is a bit it's a bit of a handful, so let me write it down in the chat for you. I strongly recommend a watch.
All right. So your next book, you said you've got that pretty much written. When are you looking at having it come out?
Uh, I'm trying to go for before the end of the year and early next year at the earliest because I actually have plans to enter it into the next edition of the Latino Awards as well.
Mhm.
Now that I have more of a feel for how things work over there, and now that I know that I don't feel like how do I put this? I feel less worthless than I than I felt back then. So I know I have a chance, and that's enough for me. So I'm definitely I'm definitely interested in entering them for next year, but that's not a factor. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, no biggie. I'll just wait until year for the next.
Right,
Um,
right.
but yeah, that's what I'm
Validation
going
is
for.
validation is wonderful, isn't it?
I wouldn't know.
That's what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Are you planning on releasing English and Spanish at the same time again?
Yeah, that's the plan. The
That's
book
good
is
stuff.
fully translated in both languages. Right now, I'm actually doing a developmental edit on the English manuscript. So what I'm doing is whatever they tell me on the developmental edits for the English manuscript, I work into the Spanish manuscript as well. So it's a bit of a give and take on both versions, and it's looking for like an amazing story. I went all out with this book. I went through a lot of motions when writing it. Uh, it was definitely a bit of an experiment in how far I could take things. For example, the first novel is let me see how many pages are on this one. This one has about 250 something pages,
solid.
counting the yeah, counting the thank you sections and all of that. But for the next book, I'm planning to go a little bit longer because it has 30 chapters as opposed to the 22 that the first book has, and the final Word document was about 290 pages. I believe that's about I think 70,000 words, 70,000 something words. So it's definitely a lot longer and more punchy in the narrative department.
See, that's good. As long as it's under 500 pages, you're doing well. That's great. Stick to that. Don't write these behemoths that just need another round or two or six of editing to cut it down to size. Under 500 is wonderful.
I agree. I don't like long-winded fiction that basically spends 5 pages just to tell you that a drip of water fell into a glass of water. I hate that. I absolutely hate that. I don't like long-winded fiction. I'm more, and I know I'm probably going to sound blasphemous as I say this, but I'm more of a Da Vinci Code type of guy. We can all say whatever we want about the historical and the factual inaccuracies of the Da Vinci Code. Trust me, there's plenty. But there's no disputing that it's a great book. I loved it, and the narrative prose, it really resonated with me because Dan Brown manages to say a lot in as few words as possible, and that lesson stuck with me.
Yeah.
That so
No,
so
that is, I mean, it's a good book. It's a good film. Whether or not he wasn't trying to be Ken Burns. You know, he's writing a piece of fiction. Before we go, I want to do a little role play here. The awards thing that's coming up for the Latino Book Awards. Give me your. They didn't call my name, but I'm going to pretend that I don't mind and be smiley for the person who did win. Give me that face.
Well, it's gonna be the same face. I'm just gonna smile and just clap if someone else wins. I'm just gonna smile and clap because no matter how you slice it, everyone in the awards, no matter the place, and even the honorable mentions, everyone is deserving of it because there's a lot of great fiction that hasn't been explored by readers. It's just like I actually was in a meeting earlier for the award winners. It was a webinar on what to do with the award, what to do with the award-winning offer moniker, and all of that. And it's what the organizer told me. He told us. He said that publishers and readers are getting far more interested in Latino fiction than before, and it's because the quality keeps increasing. I've seen a lot of books in my category, for example, that I'm just like blown away by how much they've worked for to get those books out. So I'm not really a petty guy. I'm just gonna be super happy for them all the same. Uh, and if I win, yay! If I get second
That
or
was the
third
next
place,
question,
yay!
Eddie. The next question
Yeah.
was, what if they call your name? What's the reaction at your table?
That's gonna be it.
So when do you find out?
Not yet, but I'll be on the lookout because the official press release for the media comes out next week. So I'm not sure they're gonna announce the places that won gold, silver, or bronze on that press release, but I'll be on the lookout. And
Okay.
either way, I'm gonna be super happy because this means so much to me. Because as an autistic man that's trying to break so many misconceptions and barriers and bondages and that kind of stuff about being autistic, about your conditions, about who you are. It means a lot to me that I was able to win this because it means that I get to give another person, maybe someone younger, someone older, who is probably autistic or is undiagnosed or struggles with some sort of mental disorder or disability, a chance to support them. I get to give them the opportunity to get the gift of imagination, to read, to enjoy, to appreciate life. And if I can help them work out their particular situations with my book, then that's a win for me. So that's the main goal here. I always say that the awards are nice. It's always nice when you win something, but you should never lose sight of the main goal, which is basically making a reader's day. So that's pretty much my stance on it. I'm just going to be super happy either way.
Cool.
Yeah, outstanding.
That is a very adult way to look at it.
But
I would
something
never
we
look
don't
at
get
it
much
that way.
of here. Yeah.
So
All right. Well, hey, be sure to send us a note on Twitter and let us know how you do and when the results come out. And, we're rooting for you, man. Hope you do it. And good luck on let us know when you launch your book next year as well, or later this year.
I will. Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time today. Wonderful exercises. I definitely had a lot of fun tonight. I will definitely let you know somehow. I'll let you know. I'll
you can
let you know
tell
as
me
soon
on
as I can.
Discord. You can tell me
I'll
on
let you.
Discord if nothing else.
Yeah. Fantastic.
I will. I will.
All right.
I will have.
To the folks in the chat, thank you very much for hanging out with us tonight. Appreciate it. And Mike, when are we back?
We are back Tuesday at 7 p.m. We have the one and only Palmer Pickering.
All right. Cool. Palmer Pickering next Tuesday. Eddie Alvarez tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you
care,
so
everybody.
much. Take care.
Okay.
Take care.
Now it's
Bye
time to
bye.
wave awkwardly.